Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this FTMS Global Seminar on the Auditing Papers. My name is CK Fung, or you can call me CK, and I'm the lecturer for paper F8 and P7. I will use the next few minutes to cover the important areas that students should focus on in this coming June 2011 exam. Okay, first thing first, just want to introduce to you my relationship with auditing. Now, when I was a student learning auditing, like what most of you have gone through, you will find that it is very difficult to understand because you don't have the work experience. So a lot of students end up not able to understand the procedures, the concepts, and the issue. Now, one thing I learned is that if you have been working as an auditor, that will give you some advantage, but otherwise, it's still okay. Most important, you need to basically be able to remember the important concepts and practice lots of past year exam questions. I hope in the next few minutes where I can help you to focus on the important topics. Now, there's only 1 month before the exam, and you can concentrate and focus on those things with some exam techniques and some practice. I'm sure you will be able to get a pass in this June exam. So, when I start to teach auditing and when I see students passing exam, they always share with me 3 things about passing ACCA auditing papers. First, they must have the knowledge. Okay. Next, they need to focus a lot on the application of this knowledge in the exam case study or the question. And then, of course, lastly, they brush up on the exam technique. So with these 3 ingredients, I believe auditing papers are not as bad as what it seems. So to put it simply, passing audit exam requires the acronym of CPA, which means a commitment from your side to be able to understand and to study, and the perseverance despite whatever obstacle and the number of times you have taken, never give up. And of course, at the end, with the right practice and a proper class, you will be able to achieve what you want to achieve. Now, let's start by looking at the 2 auditing papers. We have the paper F8 and the paper P7. The link between the 2 papers are basically P7 builds on the foundation of F8, and it's a more advanced level of auditing procedure. Now, is F8 a prerequisite for P7? Well, technically, you can take the 2 papers together, but I would strongly advise against it. So most students will go for the F8 and see how much they want and they can learn, and then finally deciding whether to take on the P7 as an optional paper. Now, what are the level of accounting knowledge that's required? Well, for F8, it will just be very basic accounting. For example, in this June exam, you will have likely a question on subsequent event. So you will need a basic accounting of your FYS 10, your post-balance sheet subsequent event concept, so as to learn and be able to audit the subsequent event. Other than that, at F8 level, you don't really need a lot of accounting knowledge. But for P7, you will need some knowledge at the P2 level on the advanced corporate financial reporting, because you will be asked to audit in detail some of the accounting concept. So let's go into the concept of the auditing paper. So I will first cover this paper called paper F8. So let's look at this paper F8. There's a new examiner for F8. Her name is Pammy. So she only started in last year. In other words, in June 2010, that's her first exam. So therefore, we only have 2 papers from her. This coming June will be her her 3rd exam. So you can see that I don't expect a lot of change in the format and structure of the exam as compared to previous year. Now, there will be 5 questions, and all questions are compulsory at F8. So for 3 hours plus 15 minutes reading time, you need to cover these 5 questions. I will talk about the key areas of the syllabus and the important topics in the next few slides. But first, let's go into these strategies for studying for the exam. Now, for studying for exam, you need to, as I said earlier, a lot of past year paper practice, and you need to actually attend a revision course to gain the knowledge. So with the knowledge gain, and with the right application, and the right exam technique, and with lots of practice, I think that is the right way to approach, right? So why don't we just go into the next area of the slides where we cover the key areas. Now, these are the key areas that you can see for the F8. It covers from the beginning, basic concept, all the way through the engagement process, evidence collection, risk assessment, planning the audit, internal control system, substantive testing, and completing the audit with the final reporting coming in. Alright? Now, in all these areas, students should actually have a good idea of how each of these areas flow from the beginning to the end. Right. As to the change in syllabus, there's some slight change in this coming June 2011 exam. If you were to look at my next slide here, I would say no significant changes in the content and exam format. Special edition that you can see. Special edition include the topic on assurance engagement and ethical issue, including the conflict of interest, confidentiality, risk assessment procedure. Now, students are expected to learn a bit on the internal control documentation that will cover the ICQ or the ICEQ. Opening balance and comparative, how to audit opening balance and comparative, and compliance with laws and regulation. Okay. Now, the topics deleted are not major, so I won't take it as an opportunity for students to take up things, but these are all some of the miscellaneous topics that was under the previous syllabus, and now it has been deleted. Now, looking at the important topics for the June 2011 exam, now these are some of the things that I will focus on if I'm taking the June exam. I want to look at this topic on the audit committee under the regulatory framework, which is normally the chapter 1 of any text or any lecture notes. The audit committees, you will cover the functions of audit committee, advantages and disadvantages, benefits of having audit committee. Then students should focus also on the topic of evidence, especially on this topic on the relevance, reliability, and maybe the sufficiency of all the evidence. So you will look at the factors affecting the reliability of evidence, factors affecting the sufficiency of evidence, and also the different procedure used to gather all the evidence. Now, this topic of internal audit, although it has been examined quite recently, I still think that students should not give up this topic. Areas that you may want to look at is the area of outsourcing of IA, internal audit outsource, where we talk about the advantages and disadvantages, plus the factors to consider when you want to outsource your IA. Then we have the reliance on IA and the IA reporting. Now, closely related to internal audit is an ethical issue where sometimes the client will ask the external auditor to perform internal audit. Now, what are the ethical threats and issues that you should consider as an external auditor when you perform both IA and EA? Right? This is newly added in the June syllabus, so students should be on the lookout for this. Then the audit planning or the audit strategy document. This is one area where we don't see anything in 2010, so everyone should again be familiar. One good thing you can look at is the 2009, both in the June and the December question 1. You will see this topic of audit planning being featured very strongly by the previous examiner. Next, we have the system question, normally a question 1. This round, we should actually pay some attention to the audit of sales and the payroll system. So that will include the test of controls of an internal control system over sales and payroll, and identifying weakness and recommending improvement on the sales and payroll system. Now, every year in the exam of F8, there should be a balance question, the testing of balance. So if you are doing sales, you may want to link it together with the audit of debtors. Now that will include the theory of confirmation, debtors audit, and the evidence and the procedure relating to the debtors audit.